Hi, I'm Andrew Fleck with AnalysisWX.com's Tropical Update. Still a good month to 2 months away from tropical season, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to go and look at the current surface water temperatures, letting them and watching them heat up. And speaking of heating up, there's a pattern that could be heating up from a transition of an El Nino to a La Nina, which we'll eventually talk about through this video as well. But currently what you're looking at, however, is still an El Nino across the Pacific, affecting both Atlantic and Pacific water temperatures and United States weather. But what begins to start to catch people's eyes is this nose that's starting to stick itself into the warmer El Nino water. That is number one. Number two, we have much warm water across the African coast and the eastern South American coast. Two areas to watch of indicating a pattern change, but El Nino still sticks in. Elsewhere, in which I want to share with you guys, the Pacific is really been cold and it doesn't seem to be getting any warmer. Same with the Atlantic. The Gulf states, they seem to be below water temps so far for this year. It's very uncommon to see the Gulf this cold still as we're heading into May. What are the reasons for this? Well, we're going to talk about that today. Basically, this gives you a good indication of what I was talking about. Over the wintertime, we were looking at a pretty moderate to strong El Nino. Areas in here had colors of orange, colors of red. Well, now we're starting to see colors of yellow. And with this nose of cooler water, that could have something to do with it. Over the Atlantic, you have all this warm water here. And what could be the reason for this but the possibilities of a weakening El Nino and maybe something, and I'm not saying anytime soon, but maybe sometime in the summertime, where the possible transition of El Nino to La Nina could be taking shape. Now, I really want to step away from these two factors and more or so look at the pattern that has been affecting the sea level temperatures. We're not going to talk about cyclones or where the tracks are going to be most active or anything of that nature, but we're going to talk about the sea temperatures because that's most important for tropical season a good month or two away, which we are. And that's in this area here, the Gulf states into the Atlantic. Why is this area so cold, and why can't this area in here be able to breach itself into the Gulf and the Atlantic? Well, we're going to show you that. This is because of a negative NAO and an extreme negative NAO. This is the 500 millibar heights combined with seawater temperatures. A normal NAO, which we are not in, or a positive and neutral NAO, would have a pattern like this. And you would have all of this riding up more or so this jet stream here. But that's not the case. We're in a negative NAO, like I said, where the pattern is going to be like this, and the storms and the jet is going to ride off the Atlantic all the way through to Africa. And what that's going to be doing is it's going to be wedging itself down into the Atlantic. And that's going to be hard for any of this water, which I explained, to move up and to travel into the Caribbean and into the Gulf and into the Atlantic because of the pattern that is setting in right now. And of course, this is going to change sooner or later, but what this is doing is it's basically delaying the warmer waters heading into the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Gulf. The Pacific is seeing almost the same. Basically, the Pacific is in a positive PNA. With that happening, you're going to have some nice weather over the western United States, but off the coast, water temperatures are colder, and that is because we have some negative pattern going on here off the Pacific, and when water temperatures want to seep up into the Pacific, they can't because this is wedging it down. Two areas that are really having some hard issues with getting some sea water warming. Now, looking at the pattern, NAO, where are we going? Well, sorry to say for any folks that want some warmer weather for fishing or surfing or whatever, for the East Coast, we're just beginning to go into negative, and basically shouldn't be until mid-May where the pattern finally goes to positive, where we can begin to see the sea level temps finally start to really quickly warm. And as of right now, from now into mid-May, it's going to have a pattern feel like this, where you're going to have cooler temperatures over the east, you're going to have more of a wetter type of event, and you're still going to have that northwest flow as we've been having, But as for the seawater temps of warming, that's going to stall till about mid-May. So you're going to have to hold on to your horses for a little while there. As we go into more of the P&A for the Pacific, like I said, it's positive right now. And it's going to take till mid-May to make it go basically negative or neutral. And again, for the surfers, for the beach tanners, you're going to have to wait a little bit for that to warm up, because both Atlantic and Pacific are having tough times being able to warm up, and that is due to the weather pattern. Last but not least, we're going to just share with our AnalysisWX.com crew our forecast for the hurricane season in the Atlantic for our 2010 season. We're predicting 14 to 17 named storms, 7 to 10 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. Averages being 11, 6, and 2. And of course, this is going to come correct, I think, either way, given a weak El Nino into a La Nina, or even if the pattern shifts to a La Nina, that could be even or mean worse for some of the areas of the Atlantic, Caribbean, and Gulf coasts. All we need to do right now is just get the waters to warm, and I think right now the pattern has that bit in a jar right now. And once it is able to lift, and once the pattern changes, things are finally going to be able to float more north. Warmer water is going to come in. The activities of more cooling air into the areas in the Atlantic, and everything's going to start to come into more activeness and alive, and your tropical season will then begin. But in my opinion, because the water temperatures have been so cool for heading into May, I think we're going to be having more of a delayed tropical season that's going to become more active into the middle half to the late half of summertime. So you'll be able to have a pretty nice beginning to your summer if you're going to the beach or something of that nature. So that is it for your tropical forecast for AnalysisWX.com. We'll be doing another one next week, so be sure to tune in and watch what we have for that one.